Hi, I'm Sherrill, and I am very sorry and disappointed to not be there with you today. I am currently home fighting off a bout of malaria, which was a little souvenir I unfortunately brought back from ICTMD. However, I am so happy to be able to be here in this capacity. I'm very happy to be presenting on the topic of the cultural contributions of refugees and introducing RAD Music International to you all, which stands for Refugee African Dance. Additionally, I'm very much looking forward to your feedback, as I do have questions that I hope you will consider. The first thing I want to do is introduce you to the sounds of the musicians who I'm sharing about today, just to give you a little familiarity. So I hope you enjoy a moment of their voices.
I want to freedom, freedom. Oh, refugees cry, refugees cry, refugees cry, 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 refugees cry.
In this presentation, I look at the shifting roles of RAD Music International in relation to concepts of contact theory, human and social capital, participatory musicking, and citizenship. I argue that RAD's activities are demonstrations of refugee human capital which benefit the host community by increasing social cohesion. Furthermore, these communally beneficial civic actions are a performance of citizenship. In order to make my case, I'll, one, situate the Greek island of Lesvos, RAD and RAD's initial goals of working towards conflict resolution. Two, discuss the shifting dynamics of Lesvos and the destruction of the Moria refugee camp. Three, introduce the new organizational goals of social capital and citizenship. Four, I'll present the ways in which RAD has worked and continues to work towards building civic action and social cohesion between refugees and the host community. And finally, five, in preparation for future research, I would like to start a conversation about what happens when the music is not enough and when conflict does occur. What is our role as ethnomusicologists in the field and in the room? Now, before we focus on the musicians, I wanted to place a little context around their community. You can see that Lesvos is circled here in red. This is an island of approximately 85,000 people, and its close proximity to Turkey provides the shortest sea journey to refugees entering the Schengen zone. In 2015, the peak year of the Syrian crisis, more than 500,000 asylum seekers found temporary shelter on Lesvos. In March of 2016, an agreement between the EU and Turkey declared that people crossing the Aegean Sea without formal travel documents would be detained on the Greek islands until their asylum applications were examined. Now, due to slow bureaucracy, this agreement had great consequences for asylum seekers, who in reality found themselves trapped in the islands for this extended liminal period of time. It was within this liminal time that RAD Music International was formed. This map zooms out to show the countries of origin for a majority of the asylum seekers held on Lesvos between 2015 and present day. Upon arrival to the shores of Lesvos, asylum seekers were placed in and around the Moria refugee camp. The Moria refugee camp had an official capacity of 3,200, but due to the slow bureaucratic backlog of asylum applications, by 2020, the camp and surrounding areas were home to approximately 20,000 refugees. A combination of finite available resources, extremely poor sanitation, and lack of political will to ease the conditions within the camp, all of these factors led to general despair and intergroup conflict between refugees of differing nationality and religion. Now, this is Rudy Kimpioka, the founder of RAD Music International. When he arrived to Lesvos and Moria from the Democratic Republic of the Congo in 2017, a total of 12,726 asylum seekers were registered at the official processing center in the Moria camp. Upon arrival, Kimpioka quickly realized that refugees in the camp were placed in direct competition with each other for finite resources, and he devised that music and dance were a potential solution to bring people from differing groups together, as he tells us here.
So inside the camp, Moria camp, it was a lot of challenge. People was not listening together, and we were a bit separate between Afghan, there was in their side, Arabic and African. So I decided, okay, the music maybe can connect us. Maybe I can be the mediator. Maybe I can be the voice of other people. So I start to create the dance.
Kimpioka further explained that his initial goal for RAD was to reduce conflicts between the different groups in Moria by creating conditions for positive contact. Now, contact theory came about in 1954 when American psychologist Gordon Allport presented 4 conditions necessary for facilitating positive contact: 1, equal status, common goals, codependency, and institutional support. Lurs, Sharp, and Fenton in 2017 added a 5th condition when discussing contact theory in a choral context: friendship potential. They contended that choirs could model conditions necessary for participants to form non-superficial cross-group relationships. Though Kimpioka and RAD initially began with African dance, members of other communities soon joined in and supported the organization, expanding this repertoire to include traditional Greek and Afghan dances. Rehearsals quickly became a meeting of intercultural sharing and a regrouping from individual nationalities to one ensemble. RAD became a space in which the conditions of positive contact could be fulfilled. In March of 2020, as the COVID pandemic necessitated extended lockdowns on the Greek islands, RAD's primary goals shifted to encompass civic-minded public health and education, as is evident in this video, which shares health advice for combating COVID in multiple languages. On September 2nd of 2020, the first case of COVID was recorded in the overcrowded Moria camp. As a result, Greek authorities placed Moria under lockdown, exacerbating fears within the camp of a rapid spread of the virus due to the unsanitary overcrowded conditions. Predictably, a fire destroyed the camp a week later, rendering 13,000 asylum seekers without shelter. In the weeks and months following the fire, thousands of refugees were relocated to the mainland, and a new, smaller temporary camp was built outside of the city of Mytilene. According to the Norwegian NGO Aegean Boat Report, there were nearly 15,000 refugees on Lesvos before the fire in August of 2020. But by the end of 2020, numbers of asylum seekers on Lesvos had drastically dropped to approximately 3,500. And by August of 2022, there were about 2,700 asylum seekers on the island. As a result of the shrinking population on Lesvos, the post-Moria goals of Kimpioka and RAD Music International shifted from addressing the immediate needs of conflict resolution within the camp to encompassing educational needs of the community and also contributing to the cultural sound of the island. These civic contributions highlighted the valuable human capital of the members of RAD while demonstrating a performance of citizenship. Both the American economist Michael Clemens and British political scientist Alexander Betts agree that refugees have economic value. Clemens stated, quote, "Beyond claiming a need for protection, refugees and asylum seekers are economic actors. All are consumers, most are or become workers, and many are or become investors," end quote. Betts argued for recognizing and harnessing the skills and talents of refugees as benefits to the entire community. Now, this concept of refugees using their skills and talents to the benefit of the wider community, this is an idea that Kimpioka and the members of RAD adhere very closely to, as you can see by this quote from their website. RAD is unique in that it was entirely conceived, built, and run by refugees, while there are those of us external actors who volunteer as tutors and musicians. The primary decision makers are the refugees. According to Pierre Bourdieu, the concept of capital is not just limited to the economic sphere, but rather encompasses a wider system of exchange and transformation where valued goods can be traded back and forth between material and immaterial. RAD musicians navigate these varied transactions in three ways: human capital, social capital, and cultural capital. According to the World Bank, quote, human capital consists of the knowledge, skills, and health that people invest and accumulate throughout their lives, enabling them to realize their potential as productive members of society, end quote. Refugees and locals who join RAD use their varying skills and talents, be they musical, educational, or physical, to simply fill needs within the community. Furthermore, by providing language classes and job training, members of RAD are investing in the future human capital of all the participants. These investments serve to build social capital, which was defined by political scientist Robert Putnam as, quote, connections among individuals that create social networks and the norms of reciprocity and trustworthiness that arise from them, end quote. Through contributing to the community, they are building trust. Additionally, as an officially recognized cultural club, RAD is contributing cultural capital to the island. Economist David Throsby defined this cultural capital as, quote, an asset that embodies, stores, or provides cultural capital or cultural value, end quote. Finally, the performance of civic action by the members of RAD tie in with expectations of protection or civil citizenship. In the article Transnational Citizenship Capacity Building from 2018, Finn et al. State, quote, diasporic and other forms of transnational activism that inject knowledge and capacities in a political locale evince a responsibility to the society of focus and thus reciprocally an expectation that the specific government and society responsibly protect in kind, end quote. In other words, evolved societies value those who value them. So musically speaking, how does RAD work towards accomplishing all of these many goals? How can this organization hope to achieve conflict resolution and regrouping, providing economic worth or proving economic worth and value of the refugee participants, harnessing and investing in human, social, and cultural capital, and contributing valuable civic actions to the wider community in a bid for citizenship? That is a lot. Well, perhaps the most visible tool in their musical toolbox is the participatory nature of the music making of RAD Music International. As ethnomusicologist Thomas Torino posed, the goal of participatory musicking is not necessarily the product of the performance, but rather the actual doing of the performance. By creating a space and a place of musical action for members of differing groups, RAD is working towards goals of positive contact and conflict resolution. And these are two short examples. A second tool is the use of diverse musical choices that celebrate the differing musical traditions of the participants. Examples include Afghan songs and dances, as well as familiar Greek songs in which listeners from each group generally sing and dance with. This contributes to positive contact as well as an investment in social and cultural capital, especially when used for visible public functions, restaurants, bar gigs, and festivals. Expanding upon diverse musical choice, RAD also chooses music that is upbeat with a positive message and familiar to a wide range of listeners and participants. Kimpioka is greatly influenced by the empowering messages of reggae musicians Bob Marley and Lucky Dube. The familiar, simple-to-sing songs of Bob Marley form the backbone of the RAD repertoire. Familiar music such as Beatles songs or La Bamba are also incorporated. Though the Congolese genre of rumba lingala is unfamiliar to many of the listeners and participants, the strong pulse of the up-tempo songs still allows for mass participation through dance and percussion. We see here in this set list Greek folk songs familiar to the local population, reggae songs familiar to the locals and humanitarian workers, up-tempo rumba lingala songs, as well as songs written by members of RAD. This vehicle of familiar, approachable music allows participants to feel as though they are contributing to a common goal of music making and culture sharing. Here's a short example of a song that is currently popular on the island of Lesvos. Now, RAD has also become a staple in the cultural nightlife of Lesvos, often playing for restaurants, local bars, festivals, and fundraisers. This visible and audible presence is a valuable contribution of human and cultural capital for the local community that seeks to be competitive in the tourist trade. This is also a way of building social capital, as RAD often uses their music to support the needs of the local community. One such example is this blue flyer for a party in solidarity with the victims of a local forest fire in the summer of 2022. And finally, while members of RAD seek to serve the whole population, they also give a platform and amplify the voices of the vulnerable refugee members. In March of 2022, they released an album of songs about the realities of the refugee experience, and here's a moment of one of those songs.
La journée des réfugiés est un moment clé de l'année, rappelant tous que chaque jour il y a des personnes qui sont obligées de fuir leur maison et de rechercher la sécurité, la protection et la paix.
In conclusion, the participatory nature and the familiarity of RAD's music, combined with their educational activities, they serve as a valuable civic contribution to the society of Lesvos. As the population of asylum seekers on Lesvos decreases in the wake of the Moria fire, the activities and goals of RAD were able to shift beyond the immediate needs of conflict resolution and towards an investment in human, social, and cultural capital in a bid that the members be viewed as respected and valuable contributing citizens. A little update though. The bulk of this research that went into this presentation is from 2022 and before. However, I was just on Lesvos in September, where numbers of arrivals are currently going up drastically, with over 3,600 new asylum seekers arriving last month alone. As intergroup relationships become strained and arguments break out between refugees and locals in the spaces that RAD has created, I have to ask, what is our role as the ethnomusicologist? When we are in the room, do we put down our instruments and do we document? Or do we stand in to help mediate hurt feelings on both sides? How does our choice affect our research? And how does our choice affect our environment and the people in it? I really look forward to your questions and suggestions, and I do thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a beautiful conference.